I can't wait till we get out quarantine and we can actually hire in real tech people to help us do this.
It says that we're streaming live on Facebook.
Yeah, here we go. Morning.
Good morning, Tina.
Hi, Kalon. How are you?
I'm doing as good as one can.
Yeah. Well, this is so exciting to talk about the nanotechnology in the cannabis space. And I would really love to hear everything about what you guys are doing over there. I know that you really set this bar high for this industry. So tell us a little bit about Splash Nano.
Yeah, so Splash Nano is really our consumer-facing product that gives legs to our technology. I'll just back up and give you kind of a brief overview of the technology first, because then it'll be easier to understand why we created Splash and what Splash is. So it's, first of all, thanks for having me to talk about this. I think it's great to be able to spread the message about new technology in the cannabis space, kind of deviating from the old school, delivery methods and, infusion technology, and moving forward into a much more standardized format. So starting from the top, what is nano? Everybody hears that. It's a big buzzword nowadays. It really just means small. It's 1 nanometer is a billionth of a meter. And so all of the products that we use undergo a process called nano-emulsification. And what that means is it means we're taking oil droplets, which are cannabis oil droplets, and we're suspending them in water, and we're breaking them down really, really small to the tune of about 50 nanometers or less. And what that means is it's about 100 times smaller than a human red blood cell. And so what that means as far as, cannabis and how the drug is delivered is that your body's able to absorb more of those droplets because the surface area has been increased, logarithmically.
So why is that important? Why is that a super important addition to the new cannabis space?
Right. So there's 2 main features that consumers and industry tech people are gonna enjoy as far as why we use nano, and that is to provide rapid onset. So that's going to change the edible sort of experience, the ingestible experience, and then also water miscibility, being able to put these extracts into a beverage of choice, right, or into any water-based medium. So that miscibility and the faster onset are 2 of the biggest advantages that we're overcoming in the space.
And I know with quicker onset, particularly those that we work with, the end users that are usually 50 to 80, 90-year-olds that are using cannabis to transition away from their pharmaceuticals or over the counter, and they need a quicker onset than if you would take an edible and you have to wait an hour and a half. So is this the type of products?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all the nano ingestible products are generally faster onset and in a relative context to eating something that's just made with like a pure oil. And the reason for that is that your liver actually processes all the oil and the fat that you eat, and then it conjugates that, and then it doesn't get into the bloodstream until it passes through the liver. It's got to go through the entire digestive process, which is time consuming and very inefficient as well. So the bioavailability, the amount of actual cannabis getting into the body is much lower unless it's nano-emulsified. And so that's the third kind of technical and scientific hurdle to get over, is how do you get what you're paying for in your bloodstream?
So can nanotechnology only be used on a water-based product, or can it also be used in an oil-based product?
Technically speaking, it can go both ways. But generally, when you have an oil-based sort of starting material like cannabis oil or like turmeric or like garlic or like anything that's oil-based in nature, you have to suspend it in its opposite phase, which is water, in order for the droplets to stay dissociated from one another and not agglomerate. And so if you were to do what they call reverse mycel technology, you can take a water-soluble compound like vitamin C and entrap it in an oil barrier so that it stays suspended. So because cannabis is oil-based, water would be the medium that is opposite from it so that it can stay suspended.
So Kalon, tell me, first of all, where you're located, where your manufacturing is
Yeah,
located.
yeah. So
And,
we're located in Goleta, just north of Santa Barbara. Proud, contributor to the 805 cannabis community.
and how did nanotechnology, were you always focused on nanotechnology, or did that come into play at a later date for you?
Yeah, I wasn't always focused on it, but you know, like complex infusion was always kind of part of my, repertoire. And so this kind of just added to a new challenge as far as how to make, cannabis more bioavailable, how to, use more advanced drug delivery systems. And so it just kind of fell into my lap as far as the vehicle to study to kind of make all that happen.
And it's exciting because you've just launched Splash Nano. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I'll give a quick plug for Splash. So, 2 years ago when we really started kind of this road, and a little over a year ago, we really made Nano our full-time mission. There was no way to sort of explain this to the consumer without a lengthy conversation. So we wanted to create a product that would give it legs. And Splash Nano is that product, and it's right here. So this is what the first sort of product is going to launch in the dispensaries. When you open it up, there's a little information about it, and there's a little vial that houses the nano inside here, and it's childproof, so you have to kind of work to break it open, but then you can add it to a drink. And so that's really the showcase of the technology, is being able to sort of create your own home infusion experience. So that's adding it to a beverage, that's making a batch of cookies, that's doing anything you can think of at home. And it's in a 10 milligram, perfectly dosed out, vial. So, the safest access, no issues with getting too much or too little, just the perfect dose.
And can you cut that dose in half? Can you make it into a microdose if you wanted to?
Of course. So 10 milligrams was where we started, because that's where the market, fit was, as far as getting the dispensaries and the buyers on board to get the most bang for the buck. So it's going to be a $5 retail product, which is really inexpensive. And what you can do at that point is you can split the dose, either by trying to pour it out, which I don't recommend, or just putting it into a larger volume of liquid and then just consuming a quarter, a half, a third, however many milligrams you want. It's pretty easy to do the math. If you figure you put 10 milligrams into an iced tea, you could split that in half with a friend. You guys can each get 5, or you could put it into quarters and get 2.5. So it's really super flexible. But just to put that 10 milligrams in one vial was the best sort of, MVP for us to start with.
And in what dispensaries throughout California will Splash Nano be available?
So we just manufactured it symbolically on 420. And so you'll see it live in the market, hopefully in the next week. We're getting our certificate of analysis on it tomorrow. And then, look for it locally starting probably in a week or so.
This is all fascinating. And, I always like to get the forecast from you in, this industry. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are, where cannabis is going to be going in the next year, 2 years, 5 years.
Sure. I think if anybody really had a crystal ball, we'd all be sitting in a different space. But my best prediction is that, you're going to see a trend line moving away from smokables. I think especially with COVID and, the increased need for kind of lung health and awareness is going to be a trendsetter, as well as the fact that now there's other ways to consume cannabis that aren't just, smoking, which is great. I mean, I enjoy a joint just as much as anybody else. But there's options now for people who want sort of a different experience. And I think that, edible products and beverages and, advanced edible products, teas, we're manufacturing a couple teas for a local company. So, a lot of novelty products are going to be making their way on the scene where previously the technology might not have been available, and now it is.
Well, I was going to have that be my last question, but I thought of another question when you said that you also process for other cultivators. What does that look like?
Yeah, so generally, like our manufacturing ability gives us the right to infuse products. So we don't actually do any extraction on site. We rely on other local extractors that do an amazing job of creating full spectrum cannabis extracts. But we can arrange those situations with local cultivators to essentially get their oil from them and then turn it into different products. And that's what we do is we buy pre-manufactured cannabis oil and then we infuse it into a variety of different matrices.
And then you produce the products for the cultivators.
Yeah, theoretically, we can private label products for cultivators that are to their specifications and with their starting material, keeping that chain of custody intact.
Well, this is all wonderful. Kalon, do you have any last words, parting words for us today?
Yeah, I hope everybody stays safe out there. Really appreciate the opportunity to share kind of what we're doing with the world, and then get the message just out there that hey, there's kind of new tech on the scene. You know, for all the people who may feel like they had a bad edible experience in the past, totally understand that. I think anyone who's ever consumed an ingestible product has probably taken too much at one time, and so we're kind of trying to spread the mission that this is a much more controllable and safer way to manage expectations with cannabis. And we hope that people start looking for products using this technology, in the coming year.
Well, thank you, Kalon, and say hi to your team over there, particularly Diana.
I will.
And
Thank you very much,
all
Tina.
stay safe and healthy, and see you face to face once we emerge.
Yes, I'll see you on the flip side.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
thank you, Tina. Bye.